You're welcome back, and you're still watching Newsnight. We're live from Nigeria's capital in Abuja. Some bandits on Saturday night invaded Dahanu community in Millennium City of Chikum local government area of Kaduna State and abducted two journalists. The nation's Abdul Ghaffar Alabelewe and Blueprint newspapers Abdul Rahim Abdul, as well as their wives and children. Alabelewe is also the current chairman of the Correspondence Chapel of the Nigerian Union of Journalists, Kaduna State Council. One of the victims' family members, Taufik Olayemi, who confirmed the incident, said the bandits invaded the area around 10:30 p.m. and shot indiscriminately before carrying out their act. Olayemi said the bandits kidnapped Alabelewe, his wife, and two of his children, while Abdul and his wife were kidnapped, leaving behind their sick daughter. The bandits have, however, released Abdul's wife on health grounds. As at the time of filing this report, the State Police Public Relations Officer, Mansa Hassan, could not be reached for comments as his telephone line was not connecting. A 79-year-old man, Comrade Elder Takai Agang Shamang, has been kidnapped from his residence in Binkinin Sorangrang Manchok, Kaura local government area of Kaduna State. Shamang, 78, was also a former President General of the National Union of Electricity and Gas Workers, now the National Union of Electricity Employees between 1982 and 1989. Confirming the incident, Grace Johanna Abing, manager of Salama Sexual Assault Referral Center in Kafanchan, who is one of the children of the victim, confirmed the incident. According to her, a large group of kidnappers broke into her father's residence and forcefully took him into custody. Security officials in the state are yet to comment on the incident. And Nigeria's former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has blamed kidnappings in the country on the failure of leaders to protect the people. In a statement on his X handle, the former vice president also accused the government of violating press freedom. Atiku stated that in these perilous times, the courageous sentinels of truth journalists stand as beacons of light, unwavering in their duty to uphold power accountable. He said, yet they find themselves besieged not only by the terror of abductors, but also by a government that continues to assault their freedom through arrests and detentions. A federal high court sitting in Lagos has ordered the former Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disasters Management and Social Development, Sadia Umar Farouk, to account for payments of 729 billion naira to 24.3 million poor Nigerians for 6 months. The court also ordered the former minister to provide the list and details of the beneficiaries who received the payments, the number of states covered, and the payments per state. The judgment was delivered last month by Justice Dende Isaac Dikbeolu following a Freedom of Information suit brought by the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP. Justice Dikbeolu held that the former minister is compelled by the provisions of the Freedom of Information Act to give the information to any person, including SERAP, and granted an order of mandamus directing and compelling the minister to provide the spending details of 729 billion to 24.3 million poor Nigerians in 2021. The judge also ordered the minister to provide SERAP with details of how the beneficiaries have been selected and the mechanisms for the payments to the beneficiaries. The judge also ordered the minister to explain the rationale for paying 5,000 naira to 24.3 million Nigerians, which translates to 5% of Nigeria's budget of 13.6 trillion for 2021. Okay, the national grid has now been fully restored. The Transmission Company of Nigeria announced that the collapse of the national grid has been restored, and the TCN explains that the power outage is suspected to have been triggered by the unexpected tripping of 3 units of a power generating station, which suddenly removed 313 megawatts from the grid, causing system instability that led to the loss of bulk supply to a section of the national grid. The system operator reacted to the sudden drop in generation by separating the section of the grid which includes the Imbo power station through which the company continued to feed Uyo, Aba, Itu, Eket, Calabar, even when the other section of the grid had no supply. Okay, let's bring in Arise analyst and legal personnel, legal rights lawyer, Frank Tietie, to take a look at the court order by Justice Dikbeolu on the former Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Disaster Management. Frank, excuse me. What are your thoughts here? I mean, that's a landmark decision, directive by the Federal High Court in Lagos to the former minister.
Well, I think I received it with a number of mixed feelings, because this is a matter that ought to have been dispensed with in such a short time, which was filed in as far back as 2021. To think that it has taken all that number of years to the point of 2024, we're referring to a minister that has served and gone. And the interesting thing is that it's the parties to the case are actually Seraph and the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, so not necessarily the Sadio Farouk, but expectedly the sitting minister, if there is, could have also been able to answer to that.
But this order was very specific. It was for 2021, and that was why, I mean, you know, Serap is saying, I mean, or even the judge, you know, 5% of the nation's budget of 13 trillion then.
Let's understand that the minister does not have the paraphernalia of office anymore to be able to provide those answers. So that's unfortunate. I commend the consistency of Serap and the beacon of hope that it represents in terms of x-raying accountability of government. However, when
so are you saying that order is in futility?
Well, it also depends.
It's futile?
You know, you see, there are two things. When you get a judgment, there is another whole story about enforcement of judgment. So it can be very, very frustrating in our jurisdiction. So the good thing about it is that this has, vindicated Serap. If we had, and this is a decision this is an application that was actually initiated by an originating motion, meaning that there was not so much technicality. It could have been decided within a matter of 2 weeks, actually. So why did he have to take the judiciary that long to decide it? You know, and even the fact that if you file a preliminary objection, the idea is that the court takes the preliminary objection as if it's the respondent's brief together, and then it takes all of the briefs, including the application, together, and then it gives judgment. So it's a good development, but it's defeatist in the sense that what now happens. But again, it also brings to the forefront the issues that Serap wanted to bring, to Nigerians, to the attention of Nigerians. That is, the idea of sharing 5,000 naira to persons that were not determined, that were not defined, actually, resonated a sex pit of corruption. And the Serap didn't need to go to that extent. The administration of President Buhari could have actually assured Nigerians that this was not a corrupt or a scheme that was involving any form of sleaze, that was meant to be some kind of slush fund either for the coming elections or by way of settling party loyalists. As it is now, Serap will have to go start another process to ensure that that judgment is enforced. Whether you like it or not, there will be reasons given by the Minister of the Humanitarian Affairs, and I doubt whether she was actually represented, because the reports that I read is that as if it was the ministry that was raising sort of preliminary objection to whatever Serap had filed, even though it was a very weak objection. It was not difficult for the court to reach the decision. Now, what is important is that journalists and especially NGOs across this country must now begin to activate the provisions of the Freedom of Information Act. It's very disappointing and discouraging that the Wole Soyinka Center for Investigative Journalism has expended so much money to train journalists. Some of the programs I was part of the training, and I trained young journalists on how to use the Freedom of Information Act. And it turns out that only a handful, Serap or maybe Foundation for Investigative Journalism, or maybe enough is enough. These are the only few handful of organizations that can ask government questions, whereas the law says that whenever you make an application to any institution of government, and the good thing about it is that we also have a number of states, numbering close to 20 or over 20, that have also domesticated the Freedom of Information Act as a law. So the expectation is that there should be more questions being asked of government officials in terms of expenditure, and they will certainly get orders like this emanating from the court in the case of where there is an unreasonable denial. Unfortunately, I don't really know what to make of this until Serap actually comes out very strong as to its resolve to enforcing this judgment.
But wouldn't it, put government too on its toes on how to go about implementing these 50,000 naira, monthly for 3 months? That again they are going to use, the register of to capture.
What is important for government is that it should do everything possible to be transparent and not be shady in any way. So long as you operate in a manner that becomes suspicious, NGOs like Serap will always ask questions. What Serap essentially did was to ask questions, nothing more. It wasn't accusing anybody. It wasn't accusing the then minister of just give us the details so that Nigerians will see, how did you come about nearly 24 million Nigerians that you want to pay 5,000, and on what basis do you think that 5,000 naira will actually contribute to any form of alleviation of poverty in this country, and how did you determine those persons? And so give us the records. And these are perfectly correct questions to ask as citizens. So Nigerian citizens must wake up, and I think that's, if there is any positive thing I must take from this judgment, is that Nigerian citizens now realize that they can ask for these informations, and they are entitled to get these informations within 7 days. And if they are denied the information, whatever the government institution that is denying information must give a reason for the denial. And if they are not satisfied with the reason, they can within 30 days approach the Federal High Court to give an order concerning it. This order ought to have come within the time of that minister. Yes. Unfortunately, as it is, somehow there is a way where that delay, a justice that is delayed, actually is defeats. Yes.
It's all right, Frank Tietie, a rights analyst and rights lawyer, for coming to, expatiate on the decision of the Federal High Court by Justice Tikbaulu on the FY Act. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.